Yesterday, HBO Max released a new movie called The Fallout starring Jenna Ortega and Maddie Ziegler. I just got done watching it, and here are my spoiler-free thoughts on if you should watch this movie. Of course, these are just my thoughts, and I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's go ahead and get started with the good. And right away, so much of the acting of this film was absolutely incredible. Jenna Ortega, who has already had an incredible 2022, starting out with Scream, and then this movie just a few weeks later, did a great job in her role. Honestly, the performances I've seen her give in You, Scream, and now this movie really lead me to believe that she has a bright future in her acting career. Not only that, Maddie Ziegler has probably her best acting performance to date in this film. Niall Fitch does a great job, and overall just a very strong supporting cast in this film. Then along with the acting in The Fallout, writer and director Megan Park did an excellent job connecting these characters for the audience. Our two leads come from such different lives, but end up bonding because of this horrific experience that they both shared. It's really interesting to see the conflict and the love that these two completely different characters have, learning to care for each other. Another thing in this film I really appreciated was that every single aspect of this was so realistic. Right away, we go to school with our main character, and her best friend is driving a crappy car. They pull up to their outdated looking school where people are wearing clothes that you could find at any Walmart or Gap near you. Then you have a certain scene that shows our lead sitting slumped in a chair feeling depressed while her sister's in the background recording a dance to the latest TikTok trend. Some of the scenes in this were so impactful because they were shot in such a raw and realistic way. And before we move on to the mixed, I really just want to point out that this movie made me feel a lot. Watching these kids struggle with this awful thing that happened to them, dealing with depression and anxiety, pushing away their loved ones, it really makes you care and feel for every single person in this film. There were funny moments, there were suspenseful moments, there were extremely sad moments, and that is exactly what the cast and crew were going for in this, and well, you succeeded. But with that, let's move on to what I have mixed feelings over. And I'm just gonna say it right now. I'm okay with the ending of this movie. There's no perfect fairy tale resolution, but there's also not this huge, ginormous, dramatic, awful thing that happens at the end either. And I think that fits this movie really well. I'm sure there's going to be some arguments about the ending, but I personally enjoyed it. However, I do think that this scene came too early. There were some relationships that I would have liked to get more into and have some idea where they went from the last time we saw them. I'm okay with some things being unresolved, but leaving multiple relationships on a rocky note is a little too unresolved for me. Add 10 to 20 minutes to this movie, show us if these relationships ended, if they're working on it, whatever you want, just show us what happens. But hey, that's all I have for the mix, so now let's move on to the bad. I'll be honest, there were definitely some moments in this film where I found myself to be just a little bit bored. Of course, this is a drama about mental illness, so there's going to be some quiet, somber moments in it. And I didn't have a problem with most of those. However, there were numerous times in this movie where we're just watching a character text somebody, which is fine, a lot of movies do that, but this movie would just sit on one text conversation for 30 seconds to a minute sometimes. While I understand that this is a movie about kids that are Gen Z, pretty much for kids that are Gen Z, I still would much rather have my characters interact face to face rather than texting. There were also a few times where characters were actually talking in real life, but the conversation just kept going and going for so long, and I didn't care about the topic they were talking about in the first place. I also think some characters in this movie went to waste. Like, they advertised Shailene Woodley as being like a huge part of this movie. Yeah, I counted, she was in 8 minutes of it. Then we have our lead's friend Nick, who seemed to take the incident in a different way than our other leads, and could have probably had an interesting subplot, but instead it just felt like he was thrown in a couple of times to stir up some drama. But with that, let's move on to my final thoughts. If you enjoy coming of age dramas, there is absolutely no reason you shouldn't be watching this movie like the second you're able to. The acting is incredible, the writing and directing is incredible, even the camera work is incredible. And even though these drama type movies aren't really my thing, I thoroughly enjoyed this film and can see all the talent behind it. For my personal taste, I would probably give this movie a B+, but in a more general sense, and because I know how much talent was in this movie, I'm gonna go ahead and give The Fallout an A. If you have HBO Max or really just love this genre, I would definitely recommend checking this one out. Of course, this is all just my opinion, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more content like this. That's all for this one, so I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!